Pacific Rugby this weekend, folks. Japan taking on Fiji. Both sides coming off wins, although Fiji have looked the sharpest of the four sides that have been competing with each other recent weeks. Samoa, Tonga, Japan, and Fiji. Fiji under Simon Louis. I don't know, man. They seem to have it's just something going on. Japan seem to still be shaking off a bit of rust despite having a few extra games. But yeah, we'll go through the squads, some of the stats, the recent history between the sides, and the predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Interestingly, it's 1-4 to Fiji when you look back at their last 5 games, but geez, some of these games are a while ago. You're looking at 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016, and then the most recent one, 2019. And it is that most recent one, 2019, when Japan were kind of heading into the peak of Japanese rugby that we've seen. That's that one win of the last 5 games. It was 34-21 to Japan. Every other game has been in Fiji's favour, with the average score being 27-22 to Fiji. But as I said, some of these results we're literally talking more than 10 years ago, so kind of take that with whatever value you want to place on it. But yeah, across their history, Japan's beaten Fiji more than that. But yeah, they just don't seem to have played each other that much in recent years, which is a pity because these are the two sides that kind of often get compared the most in terms of, like, man, if we were going to expand the Rugby Championship, who would you want to bring in? Japan and Fiji? Those seem to be the two names that get bandied about the most. Japan, for their now 12th ranked in the world, having had a bit of a poor run since the 2019 World Cup. They'll be looking to get a win and get there. I mean, the world ranking, it's not that important, but I mean, they'll be looking to get some kind of confidence going into the World Cup, won't they? Because, as I said, it's been a little bit hard to come by. If they were able to get a win over Fiji, at least they can kind of put themselves in that conversation. If they lose, especially at home, yeah, they'll just kind of be written off even that bit further. But anyway, for Japan, Inagaki Sakate and Aivalu, that is the same front row as played last week. And if I was to hazard a guess, I would say probably Japan's starting front row at the World Cup. Fakatava and Moore, that's your second row. Amato Fakatava, since he's come on to the Japanese scene, has been a bit of a revelation. Last week he was like one of their top tacklers with 14 and also scored a try. He's bagged a couple of tries now. So he's taken to international rugby like a bit of a duck to water. Cornelson, Labaskakni, and Himeno, that is your back row. So Labaskakni, haven't seen him play for Japan for a wee while, but he is an absolute tackling machine when he's on form. And I don't quite think we've seen the best of Himeno just yet. We know he can be a real beast of a ball carrier, great turnover merchant, great tackler, but yeah, he's not been kind of the standout player of this Japanese side in 2023. But as I said, we do know he's got that talent in the bag. Saito and Matsuda is a new 19 combo, with Matsuda coming up from the bench. Saito keeps his role, so it'll be an interesting, just to see if there's much difference between the way the Japanese backline is run compared to when Lee is starting. And then the midfield is the same, Osada and Riley. Riley's been kind of Mr. Consistent in that 13 jersey. Osada, he's still finding his way in test matches, but we will see how he goes. And then the wings have swapped numbers, Masarewa and Nakabula. They were the other way around last week, so this week Masarewa's on the right wing, Nakabula's on the left. They both had a try and a try assist last week, so if there's kind of one bright spark in the Japanese rugby landscape, that's one of them. And then Matsushima has come up from the bench to claim that kind of fullback spot, which he has been seen in many a time in Japanese rugby history. Horia, Miller, and Gu, that's your front row replacements, so pretty same. Shimokawa is there as your replacement lock. Gunter drops to the bench. Nagare, co-captain, on the bench. Lee drops to the bench. And then Ryoto Nakamura is also there in the 23 jerseys. There's no Yamanaka this week. So, yeah, it's pretty stable. The wings have been swapped. The fullbacks changed. The 10's changed. And then one of the locks has been kind of promoted from the bench, and then you got one tackling machine replacing another, Labaskakni replacing Gunter. So, yeah, we will see if the Japanese can kind of get some of that just fluid play that we've been missing from them a little bit. For Fiji, they have made way more changes compared to Japan. They've Roa Louis is definitely tinkering to get as much game time into as many guys as he can. Maui is still there as your loose head. Matsabasi is back into the 23. Remember, he played a couple of weeks ago So he is back in, and Tagi is there. So same props, different hooker, but certainly an experienced guy in Sam Matavesi. They'll be probably looking to get the line out a little bit more stable. Tuisui and Mayana Vanua, that's your locking duo. So that's an all-new locking duo compared to the side that played against Samoa last week. So we may see them still have a little bit of that kind of rust, given that it's kind of hard to build cohesion when you're changing as many guys as you do, but we'll have to see how it goes. Tangi Takivalu is your number 6, Kamikamitha is the number 7, and then Dera Nalangi moves to number 8. So that's the 6 who's into the squad, your 7 who's up from the bench, and Dera Nalangi has shifted from, was it 6 to 8, or 7 to 8? So it's an all-new back row in terms of the jersey numbers and the names who are filling them. Kurivoli is there at number 9 alongside Ben Volavola, so there's no Caleb Muntz this week. Ben Volavola looked to maybe be a little bit on the outer, but he is back in, so he needs a good performance because Caleb Muntz has been steering the ship pretty well. Botitu is up from the bench at 12, and then Nayatha Level is captain at 13. He's a bit of an excitement machine. So there's no Randradra this week. Wanigolo is on the right wing, and the perhaps most outstanding player thus far is Ravu Manda. Ravu Tamanda has been phenomenal. He has just looked the business, hasn't he? I mean, kind of Fijian winger goes with the stereotype, but man, 101 run meters last week, beats a defender, has a clean break, scores a try. Goodness gracious me, he is an absolute danger man. And then Cirele Magala is there as fullback this week into the 23 after not playing last week. So as I said, heaps of changes. If they can get some cohesive play, that'll be really impressive because it's not always easy when you make so many changes, but I 100% understand why they need to get game time into some of these guys. Bench-wise, Ikanaveri, who's been really impressive, drops to the bench. Ravai and Dogia, that's your front row replacements. Tirikirabeta is there after starting last week. He's down to the bench. Tamani is there. Lomani is there. Tititella, who's the other kind of forgotten 10 with Caleb Muntz doing so well. He's back into the 23, and then Draw Sisse drops to the bench likewise. Stats-wise, Japan against Tonga had no ball, very little possession and territory, but man did they tackle the house down. They tackled at like 90%, which at test match level, you're going to be competitive if you tackle it at 90%. I mean, tackle stats can be a little bit deceptive because if you're conceding clean breaks and nobody's even offering a tackle, you'll concede a bunch of tries, but generally speaking, if you're tackling at 90%, you're a competitive side, and I think they did that really well last week, and their line-out was at like 90% as well. That's the kind of good news, but man, they're dropping a lot of ball. So many turnovers conceded. They just don't have that kind of slick, smooth, cohesive edge. They scored a couple of great tries from some set pieces, a line-out set move and a scrum set play. But other than that, it still looks a bit disjointed. So if they can finally click, you feel like they're going to look a much better team. They're not that far away, but they need to get it right because they've had a lot of games now. And then Fiji, likewise, tackled 92%. They were giving up nothing up against Samoa. Samoa got bugger all run meters. They only conceded one clean break against Samoa. So defensively, which is not the stereotype you go with Fijian rugby, but man, it was when they scored a maul try. Their line-out was a bit wobbly, like I mentioned, so that's an area that they'll be looking to improve on from last week. But yeah, they're getting a lot of other kind of key areas right. Interestingly, with the predictions for this one, it's a split between the forecast algorithm and the bookies. The bookies are going with Fiji by 1, but the rugby forecast algorithm is going Japan by 2. So either way, this one is supposed to be quite a close one. It is on from Tokyo. It's on at 7:15 local time, which is like 10:15 local time here in New Zealand. And we've got a bunch of rugby on after this one, the likes of all the European teams getting back into action. The South Africans and the Argentinians are playing as well. So plan your day or plan your sleep, man, because there's a lot of rugby on. Matthew Carley from England is the ref for this one. If you want to pick yourself up some rugby gear, check out Love of Rugby down in the description. They've got the Japanese jerseys for the Rugby World Cup, which are looking pretty slick if you want to get some of that. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you see this one going? Number 10 in the world, Fiji, who are looking the sharpest, like I mentioned, of the Pacific Nations Cup teams. Do you think they get an away win, or do you think Japan are finally going to find that kind of cutting edge that they've just been slightly missing? You guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.